Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at Star Plus. Now this is a game that's being put out by Korea Board Games, and so I don't know how available it's going to be worldwide, but it is basically a play off of Uno. Now I know that might be an automatic turnoff to some of you guys, but this does have some value to it, and of course I'll get to that in my final thoughts, but you are basically just simply playing cards out of your hand in order to equal whatever number level that you are at. For example, the first person has to play cards out of their hand that equal 1. The second person has to play cards out of their hand that equal 2, and so forth and so on. Well, let me get down to the table, I'll show you how it works, then we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. So here I have a 4-player game of Star Plus set up for you. Now, it's basically just a deck of cards, and you're going to be playing cards from your hand in such a way as to add up to a certain number that you're supposed to be at. The first player has to play cards out of their hand that equal 1. The second person has to play cards out of their hand that equal 2. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 12. And then when somebody does a 12 level, they go back to 1 for the next person. So these cards are such that they have these different numbers on them, all the way from 1 to 9. And some of them have special abilities. For example, whenever an 8 is played, the person on your left has to draw 2 cards. Whenever a, let's see here, a 9 is played, that will reverse order for the person. So if you're going clockwise, somebody plays a 9 as part of their equation, it's going to go back to counterclockwise. There are also negative numbers in here. 7s is very similar to an 8, except that it is the person on your right that is going to be drawing 2 cards instead of the one that's on your left. And then there is also a Zeus card, which has a lightning bolt in it, which must be out in one of these different hands. Let me see if I can find one real quick. And that is basically just a skip, where you can skip your turn and not have to play, and hopefully last a little bit longer. So on my turn, I have to play 1. So I can play something to the effect of, I can play a 2 and a -1. When I do that, that equals 1. So these come into my scoring pile, and both of these cards are going to be worth 1 point for me at the end of the game. Then the person that comes next has to play a 2. So, let's see here. They can just play, for example, a 2, and that would be good enough. But you do want to try to score as many points as possible, so maybe you want to play something like this, where it is 4 minus 2, that's 2. Now, there is another variant of the game. It's called the black hole rule, where if you play 3 or more cards in your equation, then you get... then the next person and subsequent people after that have to play 3 cards or more on their turn. So if you wanted to, you could go 6 minus 4 is 2. That would be 3. You score those 3 cards. But now, player 3 over here also has to play 3 cards for their 3, because it's been 1, 2, now it's 3. And they look at their cards, they can't do that. They don't have any negatives in here, which is kind of necessary. Now, if they had 3 1s, they could do it that way. Here they have a 1 and a 2, but that's not good enough. They have to have that 3rd card. So they can't do it, which means that they have to draw 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once that the black hole negative effect has taken effect, it's over. Nobody else has to do that. So this person is having to play 3, and they go back to their regular playing. So they're just going to play 2 and 1, which is 3, and it goes back like that. So he comes back to me. I have to play a 4, which I can do. Boom, played my 4. I'm good. And over here, so now I have to play a 5. So I can do that. I'm actually going to do this though. 3, 4, 5, and that introduces another black hole event. So now this person has to play 6 with 3 cards, which it looks like we'll be able to do that at least. So here is 3, 5, 6. They get to flip that over. Now, this person has to also play 7 with 3 cards. And let's see here. That would be 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, let's see. 3, 6, 7. There we go. We could use that Zeus card to skip, but we don't want to, because we want to, if we can play, we want to play. So that's that. Now I still have to play 3 cards on my hand for an 8. And I am going to use that Zeus card and get out of that. Over here, 3 cards to equal an 8. And we can't do it, so this person has to draw 4 cards. And play continues with, as I said earlier, numbers going up progressively with each person. If someone ever runs out of cards from their hand, then the round is over. The other way the round can end is if somebody draws the last card from the middle. And once that round has ended, you tabulate your points, keep track of them somewhere, play 2 more rounds. Whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds is the winner. Let's get up to my final thoughts. Now, one thing that I did forget to mention right at the tail end of my explanation there is that cards that are left in your hand at the end of the round are negative points for you. So you take all of the cards that you've played out of your hand, and those are positive points. Any cards that are left in your hand are negative points. And so you play 3 rounds. Whoever has the most points is the winner. So with that being said, let's get into those final thoughts. Now, I said, and I think you can see how there is a very strong Uno vibe to it as far as the card game Uno. And usually that is a huge turnoff for me, and I can see where it would be a huge turnoff for a lot of people, especially in our hobby, because we've and at the risk of sounding snooty, we've kind of moved on from Uno. There's a lot of other card games that are out there that pretty much do what Uno does better. I think this game falls into that category, actually. It has a very similar feel to Uno, but I like the way that it works, where you have to be able to use those different cards at the right time in the equation to reach the level that you have to reach before those cards fire off and make other people draw cards and so forth and so on. Using 3 cards to equal, or more, rather, 3 cards or more to equal the numerical level that you must reach is a really powerful thing, because it forces everybody else to do that as well. So I think that is not bad. Having to pull off that feat is better than just being able to throw down a draw 4 and then change the color, a wild draw 4 or whatever. Being able to make the 8 and the 9 and the 7 part of your equation so that you can then reverse or make somebody on your left or right draw 2. That's better than just playing down a draw 2 card that happens to match the color that that's already there. I like that. So that's why I'm saying that I think this is, while it's based on Uno, I think, or at least it feels like it is, it's better than Uno, because there are more hoops, I guess you have to do to jump through in order to pull off these different things that are very Uno-esque. So that is that. Additionally, we played this with my 7-year-old, and he is in 1st grade, just beginning to learn, addition and subtraction and that type of stuff. So this was a good way for him to practice that in a game setting and not feeling like he's doing homework or something to that effect. It felt like he was playing a game, and he didn't really catch on that he was practicing his math while playing a game. So that's a cool thing as well, because, you know, you can kind of deceive your kids into practicing math without feeling like they're practicing math. So that's an interesting thing. I like that a lot about the game. Furthermore, he was able to compete. Even at 7 years old, he's able to compete with other people. Now, we did find that when we got into, the higher numbers and using the higher numbered cards to equal the higher number levels, the 10s, 11s, and 12s, he was struggling a little bit with that, and I had to help him. But at the same time, he was still able to do it. I just had to talk him through that process. So I do like the fact that this is reaching out to the younger ages, and it's going to be probably a little too simple and a little too just bleh, for most people. It definitely has a mass market appeal to it. It has a mass market edge to it, I guess you could say. So if you're not into that kind of thing, this is probably not going to be down your alley. However, I think that it does have some value in that it can provide a step out of Uno, or it can provide a step away from other mass market games in the direction of the hobby, if you get what I'm trying to say here. So I think it does have some value here. I think it's a good thing. The graphic design is not very good. It was rather bland and boring, but I mean, it's stars, it's constellations and stuff like that. So I guess thematically speaking, it works because it's a black or a gray sky with white dots on it, which is what stars basically look like, right? Unless you have like a telescope and all that other kind of stuff. But you get what I'm saying. I think the graphic design is enough to give it what it needs in order to be functional, but it's not pretty. It's not aesthetically pleasing or anything like that. It's just simply functional, which isn't a bad thing. It still works well, and I like it. So as this goes, I'm not going to give it a very high mark or anything like that. This is 1 thumb up. This is a good game. I would rather play this rather than Uno any day of the week and on Sunday. So there is that. So I think I'll give this a let's say a 5 out of 10, and that's because it's middle of the road. I would rate Uno much lower than that, but I think this has its place, mostly for families, mostly for I think kids who are for parents of kids rather, who enjoy playing games with their kids and who can use this game to help them practice being a little bit more quicker with their math skills and prowess. So that is it for me for Star Plus. We'll see you guys on the flip side.